Welcome to this latest video from the North East Business Network on LinkedIn. Today we're discussing the government's white paper. There it is. It's about planning. The white paper is called Planning for the Future. There's a lot of headlines about this earlier in August when the media were talking about despoiling landscapes and various things. But in truth, when you get into the detail, and for people maybe watching on LinkedIn, there are more interesting elements than the headlines that were in the national press. I'm joined by Joe Robinson from DPP, the planning consultants, by Brendan O'Grady from Tier 1 that manages the Property Backed Lending Trust, and from 13 Housing, one of the most active and largest housing associations in the north of England, with Ian Wardle. If you don't mind, I'd like to start with you, Joe. This white paper talks about planning zones. It's something that people watching American drama will know, zoning. If you've been to Disneyland, you'll drive through zones to go to different parts of Orlando. Is that the kind of thing you think could come out of having planning zones in Britain?
No, in all honesty, I think so. The planning zones are proposed as part of the local plan reform, which is a big part of this white paper. And I think you're looking at the three zones that they've stated, which is the growth areas for substantial new development, the renewal areas where they're talking about infill and densification, I think is the word they use, and then there's protected zones. So I think what they're saying is every part of an area will be covered in some sort of zone. Now, that in itself raises a whole host of questions, and I think the white paper is probably intended to kind of raise all these questions in terms of who decides where they go. Is that going to be a transparent process? If local authorities designate quite a lot of protected areas, what does that mean in terms of, do we refer back to the NPPF? Do we need planning permission? So I think it raises a lot more questions than answers.
I suppose if this white paper did become law, it would mean that there will be a period in time in any local area where the people who run the council at that point in time, the people who engage in the planning zone approval and planning process, will be uniquely important. They will be, for that point in time, able to shape forever that town or city's public realm and landscape.
Yes, in a sense. However, the plans are a lot shorter. So it's not like we have a 15-year process. There's going to be a 5-year rolling review of the plans. And the other issue, I think, is that the local planning authorities will be told what their housing requirements are. So that will come from nationally and it will be binding upon them. So I think, you know, it's going to be a rolling thing. It looks like it's going to be checked a lot more rigorously. And another question that comes to mind is about resource in a local planning authority. You know, there's quite a lot coming upon the local planning authorities to make these decisions, to make things happen. And I think one of the questions that's not really addressed in any great detail is about resourcing of these LPAs.
If this did come about, I suppose there's if we were in a position where it was now in place, people like yourself, your job would be a lot easier if someone was proposing an office building or a block of flats or a housing development. You would know that it was only about getting the design right rather than the permission. But equally, they could be litigious, I suppose. These could be challenged in courts rather than through planning committees.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I think there were, you know, the idea is that local communities will come up with these pattern books from the outset where they will be able to establish design parameters, as will local planning authorities, and these will either run with your local plan or will come in as SPDs, so supplementary planning documents. So yes, I think there will be a lot more discussion and potentially a lot more constraint with these design codes than we have already.
Let's move on to another element of the plan, which is an element that's designed to encourage small builders to build their own homes, maybe in smaller plots. Joining me is Tier 1 Capital's Brendan O'Grady. Now, you have the Property Backed Lending Trust, Brendan, so you already fund small builders. What are the constraints in funding small builders at the moment?
Thanks, Graham. Well, through Tier 1's role as investment advisor of the investment trust, which is the main market listed fund, we get the opportunity to speak to SME house builders on a daily basis. One such example would be Beat Homes, or high quality team, who we backed to deliver 20 homes at Marley Hill in Gateshead a couple of years ago. They successfully delivered that product, and we're now backing them on a second project at Build Key. Everybody knows the UK consistently has not built enough homes to keep up with demand. Before COVID and Brexit, housing was the number one topic on the agenda. We've seen 11 housing ministers since 2010, I believe. And that makes the industry so difficult to plan for, because projects take anything from 2 to 10 years from origination to completion. The large volume house builders and the registered providers like 13 Group provide a significant volume of the units required, but the market needs SME house builders to fill that gap. As funders, we're looking to reduce as much of the risk as possible. And I mean, at the moment, the planning process is a huge challenge for SMEs. It's heavy on both time and professional fees, and it's quite subjective in nature. And anything that can be done by the government to reduce that risk, as a funder, we would welcome that.
Okay, so it sounds like a broad welcome from you. Let's turn to 13 and to Ian Wardle. Ian, thanks for joining us. Section 106 at the moment is an element of planning law which can mandate large developers to make contributions to the community. I know you've both had to get involved in making them, but more importantly, can be the beneficiary of them. This is going to be replaced by a community infrastructure levy, the levy being set nationally based on the value of land. In principle, what's your view on that proposal?
I think anything that maintains or increases the supply of affordable homes is welcome, because there is such acute need. But again, the devil's in the detail. So half of all affordable homes in the UK and in England are constructed as a result of Section 106. We don't know what the rate of the national levy will be. And obviously in lower value areas, such as the North East, will we be disproportionately impacted? Will there be a redistribution mechanism from higher value areas in the south? We don't know that detail yet, and that's something we need to explore. The other thing is the levy can be used for different things. So it can be used for schools, it can be used for infrastructure, and sometimes affordable housing isn't prioritised, so we're a little bit worried about that. And then the third aspect of it is there's going to be temporary exemption. So any housing site 50 homes and below won't need to provide affordable homes. That's what's proposed. So for us, if you look at our development pipeline, which is about 4,100 homes at the moment, that would take 600 homes out of it straight away, which I understand because they're trying to get SME builders to bounce back from the current pandemic, but it will restrict supply. So again, the intent's there, and it's really positive, but it's the detail we need to see and work through.
If I pick on one bit of the detail, which is how you spend it, because the white paper does specify that it is designed to get more affordable homes into the market. Yet, when you look in the detail, there's a lot of flexibility for councils to spend it on everything from playgrounds to road junctions and so on. Obviously important in the building process, but not the actual homes.
Yeah, I mean, they can spend it on school places. So it really depends in that local community and for that local authority, what is the most pressing issue for them? And it could be that it's affordable homes, but it could be that they haven't got enough school places and they don't have money to build a school. So therefore they'll prioritise it for a school, which is understandable. But as a result, the pot would not be big enough to then do the affordable housing as well. And that's the bit we're a little bit concerned about, because there's competing demands on that national levy, whatever it's going to be. And we don't even know what the level of the levy will be in any event.
Would you think that the levy should be able to be transferred over to organisations like yourself, using the local authority as the middleman?
Yeah, I'd love that to be the case. And I hope that does actually happen. And I would hope that maybe where higher value areas would distribute some of that value to the North East, so we can make derelict sites viable again. But we just don't know. And that's the next stage of this consultation, is really finding out about that level of detail.
And will you use the consultation to make a contribution to the debate?
Oh, very much. And I think you'll see from the document itself, Graham, there's some really good questions in there. It's a very exploratory white paper. And I just hope that there's a great opportunity for us to get this further more information.
Thank you, Ian. Thanks to my other guests. If you're interested in this issue, the white paper can be downloaded from the government website. It's called Planning for the Future.